Lightnin Chance was pre-18. He was one of the pioneer players here in Nashville. He was one of the early players on the Grand Ole Opry. And like I say, I don't know that Lightnin was the person who came up with it originally, but he was certainly one of the ones that popularized using what I guess you would call a drum head on his bass. In his right hand, Lightnin would hold, and you'll see at the bottom of the bass, wedged in between the strings, under the bridge, is an old metal drum brush. And Lightnin would hold it between his little finger and his index finger with the brushes extended out, where he could pluck the bass strings with his thumb and strike the drum head with the brushes. The reason being, in the early days, the Grand Ole Opry frowned on drummers. And so in order to have somewhat of a beat, of a drum sound, this is a method that Lightnin and some of the other bass players would have that drum head mounted on their bass guitar. Now, Ray Eddington told me one day while we were doing a tour through here that they said that not only was that the drum at the Opry, he said many of the sessions they did, early sessions they did in the Quonset hut, that would be the drum that they used. It sounded very much like a snare drum with brushes. The drum head that you see mounted on the bass here, this is the tension rod with a little tension, the nut in the middle to tighten it up. The tension rod that would have come off of a screen door. To give it a little extra tightness, there is a piece of paper folded up, or cardboard folded up, wedged in between the bass and the frame of the drum head. And actually what that is a 50s Texaco road map of the state of Oklahoma. And it's been there for a long time, and it's evident from photographs that that's the same map that was photographed in the early 60s with, maybe late 50s even, with Patsy Cline on the Opry and the Everly Brothers and who all else he played with. And in an interview that we did with Buddy Harmon about a year before he passed away, I asked him, I said, is it true that you were the first staff drummer hired for the Grand Ole Opry? And he said, that's true. He said, in the beginning, I had to stand next to the bass player and play this drum-like head thing he had mounted on the side of his bass like a damn fool. And that was his words. And so he would stand here and play, while Lightnin was playing the bass, he would stand here and play this drum head, and that was his drum kit. It wasn't until 1974, when the new Opry House opened up by Opryland Hotel, that they allowed, because of the acoustics of the room, they finally allowed drummers to use a complete set of drums while performing on the Opry. But he told me his favorite bass to use in the studio was the short homemade bass here in the front. This is the bass that you hear on Wake Up Little Susie, All I Have to Do Is Dream, many of those hits that the Everly Brothers were famous for. It was also used on the very last recording session for Hank Williams Sr. And that session was the one that had Kalijah and Your Cheatin Heart, which was the last song that they did. And I wasn't going to, but I'm going to elaborate on this one bass for a second. Don Helms, who was the steel player with the Drifting Cowboys, in an interview that we did here in the museum a few months prior to his death, told me that Lightnin and he and the other players on that session, that Hank was not feeling well at that time. He was sick. His back was giving him a lot of trouble, and they had recorded 3 songs in that session. They had just finished Kalijah, and Hank said, well, I think we have time for one more song. So he played he played all the players this new song called Your Cheatin Heart. And he played them about 8 bars of it. And then Don said that Hank looked down to him, sitting at his still, and said, give me a kickoff. And since they were in the studio, the recording machine was on, and Don said, I did the intro that everyone that's familiar with the song knows. And when he played that intro, Lightnin and all the rest of the musicians fell in and played Your Cheatin Heart all the way through without rehearsal. Hank sang it. When they got through, like I said, Hank wasn't feeling well. And he said, did anybody make a mistake? Nobody raised their hand or said anything. So he said, okay, we're done. So that was it. That is the recording of Your Cheatin Heart. No rehearsal, no overdubs, one time straight through. And that was the one and only time that they ever played it with Hank singing it. They were due to play it at the following job, I think in North Carolina, and it got iced out. Then Don said they were going to play it on the New Year's Eve job, and of course that's where Hank died, in the back seat of the Cadillac. He said from the time he finished recording Your Cheatin Heart, the next time he saw Hank, he was in Montgomery looking in his casket, playing at his funeral. That was it. So that record, the next time you hear it, just remember, no rehearsal, one take, and that was the one and only time that song was ever played with Hank singing it.